You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society.
Well, there you all are, and thank you for wanting to come into the Six Screens tonight. Well, we've been doing this now for 20 years, and I have to tell you, we've never missed a Saturday night. We are here because you are here. Now, we've got a program tonight. It's called Watchtower Insider. Barbara Anderson tells all, and she has a guest with her. We all know her, Kerry Kaye. She's a former Jehovah's Witness as well. But I'll just give a little intro here to kind of whet your appetite and give you an idea what Barbara and Kerry are going to be discussing tonight. What you believe is not necessarily so. Our beliefs shape our reality, and we often mistake, that is, comforting narratives or strong feelings for facts, leading us to believe that they aren't or are objectively true. What truth is all about? But it's all about what truth would be as truthful. But belief is something different. Truth, we try to deal with facts. When it comes to belief, sometimes we have a hard time even understanding what it is. Our minds can create powerful truths that serve purposes but aren't factual. In many cases, this took place in the Watchtower. So, what we have to do is we have to critically think. We have to start using our brain, so to speak, and we have to understand that critical thinking is necessary to distinguish between subjective conviction and objective reality. So, if you follow that, that's what Barbara and Kerry will be discussing tonight. So let's bring them on right now and say hello to them and let the audience know that they're prepared and ready to go. So let's add them to the stage. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Kerry.
Hello.
Hi there.
So you're going to be talking about belief systems tonight. And a lot of this stuff isn't really what we hear, Barbara and Kerry, is sometimes nonsense, right?
Well, it becomes nonsense after they change their ideas on subjects. So
Yeah.
previously was nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I'm here. I'm looking forward to what you folks have to say. We got a big audience coming in already. So I'll kind of cut you guys loose, and I'm here if you need me. Just say, hey, Rick. And then what we'll do is probably about 45 minutes, an hour from now, we'll open up the lines and let people come in and voice their thoughts on the program, okay?
That would be great because we're going to run out of information after a while. And
All
so
right.
we want to hear from other people. So we have two subjects we want to cover. They're related because both of them have the same background. It ain't necessarily so that it was truth. But there's so many things we could bring in, but we would like to hear from other people and their experiences with such a thing as facts and truth. So thank you, Rick, very much for inviting us. And it's a pleasure of mine to be here with Kerry. She and I converse on the phone once in a while, and we always have news for each other because of our informing people of the things that we're learning about. So there is a buzz. I wonder where that's coming from.
Oh.
Okay. All right, it stopped. I don't know where it came from. But some of the things I never expect to hear from anybody, but it was a few months ago that I did an interview with a young woman who is an ex-Jehovah's Witness, and I think it's called JW Facts. So it wasn't released for public consumption until about 2 weeks ago. So I was surprised when I heard it, because I didn't know what I sounded like and what I was talking about at months ago. So it was interesting to me as to what became more popular in the talk and in the interview than some of the other things. And one of the things that I talked about was newspapers that the Watchtower ran their articles in over the years. And I mentioned the fact that at one point that I knew that certain newspapers were not what they were supposed to be. And so after the broadcast, it was obvious that people wanted to know more about it. Now, a number of years ago on this program, I talked about Russell and how he used newspapers and how he lied about newspapers. I actually saved a copy of it and I went to look it up. Now, what you're seeing here was sent to me the other day because a woman was listening to me describe about how the Watchtower used newspapers to lie. And so a few days ago, I get a copy of it through the internet, and I was immediately shocked. I had to say I was shocked. I was at that convention. This is 1965. And of course, I hadn't thought of that for eternity. So this gal said she had heard me talk about newspapers at conventions. And she said she was in the newspapers. These are worldly newspapers that were sold around the conventions. And that's these three girls are 19 years old each, 1965. Can you imagine? And they made the front cover of the Daily News. So, of course, back then they were thrilled. You know, anybody that was interviewed by the newspapers at the big assemblies, they thought that newspaper was putting out the information that they were selling to them. And, you know, like these gals, they thought they were in the Daily News that went all over New York. So they were thrilled. And so in the assembly here in 1965, I have a story to tell, and it's brought back so many memories. Kerry, have you ever been involved in anything like this about the newspapers, the way that the Watchtower Society used them?
Well, I do know that when I was going through some family files, that they did actually reach out to the newspapers to print stories of what was happening at certain. I have records from like the 1960s. What was happening, how many people were coming, how many people were baptized. So they printed this in the papers, and they corresponded back with the editor back and forth on some of the articles. So yes, I knew about these things.
Okay, but did you know that those newspapers were actually specially printed and the articles were written by the writing department of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? That those newspapers didn't go all over the city where the convention was. Those newspapers were made especially for Jehovah's Witnesses. And we thought, we thought the kingdom message was coming through the worldly papers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was shocking to this one girl in the picture on my far right, her, I guess turn her around, she's to her left, right? Okay. She had this paper in her, where her desk or something, 60 years. And when she heard me talk about the phony, bony, baloney papers, that's why she sent this copy or a picture of this copy. And she says, "Oh, we were thrilled about this." On the bottom, there is a statement here to call in, hit 6 to unmute, so you're not seeing what is written there. And see, there is a statement there, and I'll read it. It says, "Well, seeing is believing." Well, what a coincidence! Seeing, in this case, it wasn't true. They thought that everybody at this convention, 34,827 people, they did see rain. I checked up. So it wasn't a lie about the rain. But here, these gals, they traveled all the way to Yankee Stadium from Wisconsin, I believe. And they were 19 years old. They were pioneers. And they made the papers, and they thought that, oh, what a special thing. And so the people who assembled for the assembly, let me read a little bit that I put together. And this is what I said. This is now 60 years old, this newspaper. And it was sent to me by a former JW. This is one of the newspapers that dozens and dozens of newsboys hawked outside of JW conventions when held at Yankee Stadium, that those who attended believed was published by an important news organization. Hence, they thought what a great witness was given in New York, wherever these newspapers were sold. However, the newspapers covering the Yankee Stadium JW conventions were only sold around the stadium, not anywhere else. The Watchtower Society had a deal with news companies to sell newspapers around the convention site, which would feature convention news. The Daily News was and still is one of New York's most important newspapers. The Watchtower's writing department back then would write the stories about what was going on at the convention, which would then be published in those papers. I wrote, and I sent this to some of my friends before I thought about putting it on 6 screens. And I wrote, "Joe and I lived in West Palm Beach, Florida at that time. Our son Lance was 4 years old when we attended the 65 Yankee Stadium JW convention, and we were thrilled at the wonderful news coverage regarding this convention talks in New York's newspapers. Thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses came by car to the Yankee Stadium for JW conventions from other states, and they bought newspapers by the dozens to take back home to distribute to the home folk, the worldly newspapers that were advertising the kingdom message." I wrote this. "By the way, the Watchtower and the newspaper publishers split the profits." Now, what was the profit? What was the amount this paper sold? Did you see that on the paper, how much it was? Right on the top of the picture. Yeah, you see that, Kerry? Way on the page. What's that on the top? That's how much that newspaper was sold for. 7 cents. Isn't that interesting? 7 cents went a long way a long time ago, for a newspaper. And some people thought that this newspaper had maybe a worldly news and just the front cover. No, the entire paper was full of information on the convention. And 7 cents was a lot of money, especially if the society split the amount of money. That's not a lot, but the newsboys made just pennies, and they were selling thousands of them. If you had 35,000 people, I watched this. We bought those papers. We gave them to relatives. I was from Long Island when I became a witness, and the first assembly I attended, it was earlier, it was 55. And these newspapers, I thought all our relatives were reading that in Long Island, because they read the Daily News. And I thought, oh, look at the coverage, and they're going to hear the truth. Well, that wasn't true. So all the years that I was fooled, But I discovered the truth about this, and this is when I learned what really went on. It was when I was doing research in the writing department, and I saw stored in the archives. There were shelves, and on the shelves there were copies of some of the papers from different years in the department's archives. So I looked at them, and so especially when they were in Yankee Stadium, 1984, 250,000 people attended. And I was at the Polo Grounds. I was engaged to Joe, or he was engaged to me, whichever way you want to put it, during that assembly. And he was working at Bethel. And so during the day, he attended the convention and left right after we ate supper around the convention at a little restaurant or something, or brought a sandwich. He would go back to Brooklyn, because the Yankee Stadium is in the Bronx. And then he would work the night. And they were putting out a brochure for the stadium people during the day. So you not only had what the Watchtower is putting out, you had the worldly newspaper telling about this wonderful convention. So when I saw these so many years later, and I saw these papers, and I wondered why they were there and what was so great about them. And then when I looked closely and I saw the advertisements, and I realized that was from way back when I lived in, first of all, in Long Island. Then when we lived in Florida, we always came up to the Yankee Stadium assemblies. And the reason we did was Joe's mother and father lived a few streets over from Yankee Stadium. And we had Lance, our little boy, he was 4 years old. So we would stay with Joe's parents and walk over to Yankee Stadiums and the Polo Grounds. So we did that often. So, I had so many memories of that. And so when I saw these papers and I looked close at them, I was asking one of the staff members in the writing department, who is much older than I, because this went back, so far. And he told me about the newspaper deal, that these papers were all written by the writing department, and that the publishing of the actual paper was done by the newspaper. So it wasn't published at a world headquarters. So not only was I troubled by what I heard, but the man who told me about it, he was very troubled too. And this was in the 80s and early 90s. And yet this is 1965, and he had attended and was at Bethel. So all those years. And so anyway, I sent a copy of all this to one of my friends who was an extra, very active elder. And he had a very close association with the society on planning assemblies. He was not at Bethel, but he, like your uncle, I think you told me. Tell us what about your uncle and his part of. Oh, we're not hearing you.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It was actually my father-in-law who was involved in writing. He was part of this, taking care of the circuit and the advertising for the circuit assemblies. So he's the one who contacted the newspaper, and he wrote the article for the newspapers. And then they also, in those days, it was in the 60s, they planned parades before the assemblies, and then they would have field service. So they would have the sound cars and all of that. It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So the course is very interesting to go through the correspondence back and forth and through the city and getting the permission, them telling them what they can do, what they couldn't do, and so forth.
Right. And probably at Dodger Stadium, a place like that, it could very well be that they had the same procedure where it was a deal.
Probably. I'm not familiar. He wasn't doing Dodger Stadium by that time. My records go back to Buffalo and to a few of the circuit. I can't remember the names of the circuit assemblies offhand, but I have some paperwork from those big assemblies.
Yeah. You know what bothers me is who got fooled through this. The water people couldn't care less. It was us. They were fooling us. They were deceiving us.
And I don't even know if even our family members even knew that they were making money off of the newspapers. They were just
nobody really knew. No,
they were just doing the work.
And they had another newspaper, which I've never talked much about, and it looked like a union. The unions, and so this looked like a union paper, and this was, and they were distributed in the city, New York City. And when I first became acquainted to that one, I thought somebody handed it to me in the street, and so I thought that was a union paper, and I didn't know back those years either about this. You would read this paper, which was about the size of New York Times. It was long instead of wide. And until you got to the end of it, that's when you found out that's where the kingdom message was.
Okay.
So now, is that deceitful? Not necessarily. That was their way to get the message out, and they didn't charge money for it. They didn't make money off of it. And they didn't deceive anybody except that they didn't announce what the paper was like. They made us feel that we were reading something news about something that was designed to get us to read about the world's situation, like especially about the labor unions in the 30s and the 40s, the issues with the labor unions. And then you found out at the end that it was distributed by the Watchtower. So, well, that is not really that upsetting. But now when I sent this copy to this ex-elder, this is what he told me. He wrote me, and he said, large conventions and small assemblies were always about the money. That is true all the way back to the beginning. Proceeds from concession stands, cafeterias, books, anything that involved money were all revenue streams for Watchtower. These were primary revenue generators for Watchtower at the time. It remains the case to this day. Only over the last couple decades, they've successfully gravitated toward a per-publisher surcharge arrangement, plus begging for donations at the events. It's all about the money. Today, even the properties are revenue streams. Every time event profit loss numbers invert, they just sell the property and collect on their investment. Then they herd, H-E-R-D, herd, everyone to another location, no matter how far away that might be.
That's right.
That's what it was. And we thought it was about the kingdom message.
Yeah.
I was so attracted to this organization because of the good news of the kingdom.
Yeah, I did run across the accounting, and what they would do is they would give them the amount that the assembly made, and they would account for every single thing that they spent and the rent or whatever, and then they would keep a little bit, but they would send the profits to Watchtower. So they would say, now this this amount is what we did, and then this is the amount that we're sending to you, but we're keeping this for the next time. So they had a whole system, and it was profit. It was definitely profit for them.
It would be cool. What's wrong with making some profit? It's
really
just that this is a non-profit organization. That's so that even was deceiving the government.
Yes, yes, because they weren't paying tax.
501c3, that's a non-profit organization, charity.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a way to do it. Would the government even suspect? No way would they suspect that this was money that really was going to a charity that they don't account for it at the end of the year.
Yeah. And that's not counting the donations either.
Well, of course. Yeah, that's the truth. You know, there was a kind of a scandal not that long ago. And this was out in, I believe it was Washington State. And it's been in the last 20 years, but you know, time flies when you're having fun. So I can't pin it down. But I was there. I knew the people that were involved. They went to the actual newspapers to report what they found out. And it was a former elder and his wife. And we were visiting out in Washington State with them. They became good friends. After I appeared on Dateline, I met so many former Jehovah's Witnesses, and we became good friends for all many, many years. So there was this elder at the time, and I don't know how, I can't remember how he found out, but at this huge assembly, they had parking for all the witnesses, of course. It was a huge parking lot. And as the witnesses came in to park, they were charged a parking fee, and they went and parked the car. Well, the big problem was that stadium never charged for parking. Jehovah's Witnesses charged the people who attended, and they made them think that this was to park there. That fee was put in place by the stadium owners, the stadium operators. But it wasn't. The profit was going to the Watchtower. If you do something like that, that's not illegal to forewarn and say we're going to charge and get permission for the parking, but to mislead, that is really what burns me up, is the misleading. So we were so trustworthy. So I had a little experience I think perhaps a lot of you would find interesting. When I attended the 1958 assembly, as I said, I was newly engaged to Joe, and I was only a witness for 4 years at that time, and he was at Bethel. So there was between sessions, so you had a lot of places to go. You could go visit some stores in the Bronx on the main thoroughfare right by the Yankee Stadium. After you ate, you could take walks. You walked over to the polo grounds and visited people over there. Well, we were taking a walk, and because we were newly engaged and we were in love, and we didn't notice anybody. But what we did, I noticed, I'm new, and I'm so, oh gosh, I was so excited to be in a witness because I wasn't raised in it. I wasn't bored. This was all new to me and gave me hope for everlasting life. And oh, it was just perfect. And I had a perfect man that I was going to marry, and you know, all the dreams that we had, which I did. Actually, my dream was fulfilled. My husband was perfect. But anyway, this is the thing. We're walking along, and there was an apostate, and he was standing there on the sidewalk next to the main road, right there at at the side of Yankee Stadium. And as we walked by, he was given, each person that walked by, he would give them a brochure.
Mhm.
And it could have been the Dawn Ice, it could have been any of those people that were witnesses that left. And so when I saw what he had, when he handed it to me, and I looked at it closely, and I looked twice, and I realized it was from apostates. And I was so upset with them. And so I took that brochure and I stood there right in front of the man, and he thought I was interested. And I took it, and I took my hands, and I just tore it to little bits.
Barbara.
And made a big project out of it. And then I tore it the other way. And tore it. And he was staring at me. Well, Joe was staring at me too. And then there was a waste paper basket, a big commercial one right near where we were standing. So I walked over there and I threw it. Oh, I was emphatic. I have no use for you. And so, okay, the man looked at us and like, are you crazy? So we start walking away, and my sweetheart, my dearest husband, of course he wasn't at the time, but I've never forgotten. He was so calm, and he looks at me, and he's taller, so he looks down at me, and he said, "I am so disappointed in you." He shamed me in a very kind way. That I was not kind, I was rude. Doing this, I should have shown love to the man. You know what? I've never forgotten that. I learned a lesson. He taught me a lesson, and I was just new witness. And so I have tried over the years. I don't care how annoyed I am with, as a witness, with the apostate movement. I would never repeat that. And now I is one in the apostate movement. So, but we learn through kindness. And so I have a few stories like that from Yankee Stadium. And so, like I said to the girl here that sent me, or she's a girl now, she's probably my age now. And so I said, this brings back so many memories in your life. I'm so glad you kept it.
I'm glad you have that, and that you have that connection with her now. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
We had common memories, and they were pioneering, like I was before. I was in unassigned territory after I was a witness, just about a year and a half, and with two other girls. We went to the Needed Grader in Mississippi. And then because we were in Mississippi, it was the Mississippi State University, and we couldn't get a job. All part-time jobs were taken up by the university students.
Yeah.
So we had to go back. We would have had to go back to where we came from, which at that point in my life, my parents had moved to Miami. I was, at that point, I was 17, finished school. And so we heard about the Yankee Stadium Assembly in 58. And that's where I came from, just 30 miles from there. That's where I was born and raised. So we decided to go there, go back. I went really back home. And I worked in the 58 assembly. I actually worked pre-assembly work. And when people witnesses would find rooms for 250,000 people to stay there, they would fill out a blank paper, and then it would go to people like me at headquarters who were typing it out. I wasn't a Bethelite, but that's when I met my husband.
Right.
Yeah. So, I was in Miami, I go to Mississippi, go to New York, and meet the man in my life, and then end up in West Palm Beach. My territory was Palm Beach. I had one adventure after another. And so I tell people, I say, life is not a journey, it's an adventure.
I love that.
Yes, it
I
is.
love that.
You have to keep walking. If you don't go around the corner to see where your adventure is going to continue, you're missing an adventure. And so I look back and I say, God, I had a wonderful life. Even as a witness, I wasn't raised a witness. So I had a lot of fun as a kid. I felt sorry later on. I knew how the witness kids didn't have a great life like I did when I was a child because we were Catholic. And so I could make decisions and everything like that. But I had a very fascinating life. And so I'm trying to say to people, all of these experiences, you know, unless you were beaten to a pulp by your parents over the witnesses or harmed by child abuse or
Right.
horrible things. But if you were raised a witness and it wasn't horrible for you.
No, I came in, my mom studied, when I did my other interview with you, I went through the whole thing, but quickly my mom started studying when I was in kindergarten, and she got baptized in 1975. And then my dad came in later. So I went from having Christmas, having birthdays, having the worldly everything, and then becoming a witness and watching my mom get rid of stuff. Oh, I like those Christmas ornaments. Yeah. But it was an adjustment. It wasn't all bad. I made some good friends, but I learned later that it was conditional. So, and as I started to raise my family, I decided this wasn't for them. And if they wanted, they can go have it later in their life. It's their decision. Basically.
Well, that's true. And, we can make lemonade out of lemon if we consider that lemon. But some people like lemon.
Yeah. And I loved my witness family and Joe and Uncle Joe and Aunt Lou, who were in the district work. And
yes, to say is that where we lived in West Palm Beach, actually the whole state of Florida was Joe Saya and his wife's territory as district overseer.
Yeah.
To see them all the time. What a wonderful couple.
Yes. And I have lots of heirlooms from, the old times. Like my husband's grandfather did the sound cars, and he was in the court case for the state of New York versus Saya for the sound cars, and he won on the free speech. I was very proud of marrying into that family. I was very proud of that fight for freedom.
Yes.
So I was, I had some good things. So there's some dark things, but there's some good things. And I don't regret. I wish I could have changed some things, but then when in retrospect, I think, well, it fine polished me for other things. And it is an adventure. So.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. The saddest part about it is just like out in the world, there are very, very cruel people out there too. And so within the witnesses there, and within the Catholic Church, within the Baptist Church, this is the way it is in our world. And it's too bad that kids end up being molested by predators.
Right.
But that's where they go. That's where they go, to the churches. And that's been the way it has been for years and years and years. And hopefully within the next year or two, many of the states are going to be changing their laws. And so predators won't get away with what they've been like through some of the rules, punitive privilege, for instance, and get away with what they do because they're of a religion. And the minister, they confess to the minister, and then the minister forgives them because whatever's forgiven on earth is forgiven automatically in heaven. And the predator He didn't burn in hell because he's forgiven, because he believes that. And if he doesn't confess to the priest, he believes he's going to burn in hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's going to get away with punishment on this earth and punishment in the heaven. But then they go on and they molest again and again. And the Watchtower Society fell into this. And that was not the hellfire teaching, but the forgiveness of sin. And
Right.
that. They forgave this if the guy or the woman professed such manifest sorrow and cried, and I'll never do it again. And because of that attitude, the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, and especially since the 50s, when they started to adopt some of the teachings of the Catholic Church, which did exactly the same thing. And for many of us that do a lot of research into the history of Jehovah's Witnesses way back when, and you compare it to some of the religions, you see where in this case, for this particular issue, they adopted the teachings of the Catholic Church on sin.
Yes, they did.
Of sin through a manifest confession. And so all these years, nowadays, this is first time this year where they're not going to be telling a victim's parents, I'm talking about Watchtower, the elders, they're not going to be telling the witnesses' parents, don't go to the authorities like they've been doing for years and years and years. And so if the child is molesting the organization, that individual, as if it's a circumstance, that they will go to tell their own story, or their parents will tell their own story. The Watchtower will not be interfering in that. They should have done this all a long, long time ago. And that's why they have such severe problems. Because, I tell this to everybody, anybody knows me, I say the people at the Watchtower, no matter what you think, most of them aren't evil. We're talking about the men who make decisions. They weren't evil. No, they were stupid.
That's a good point.
And they didn't do anything about this, and they forgave people who broke Caesar's law, just like Catholic Church was doing for centuries when the priests harmed members of the Catholic Church. They were already forgiven, just forgiven.
Yeah, and they didn't take into account, the trauma that happens to a person when they are abused. It hasn't been until the last 20 years or so that it's really been, a psychological diagnosis for and therapy and treatment for people who have gone through trauma. So they just swept it under the rug.
That's right. There's a new movie coming out. It's up for sale, of course, because when they make movies nowadays, I don't know how it all works, but this movie's up for sale along with many movies. It's a few months, and it is regarding a certain priest who was finally disciplined after years and years of violence towards the flock. And anyway, it's the violence. Most of the violence was towards the nuns. So it's the Vatican nuns that the whole movie is about, and nuns in other areas who were horribly abused. And it could be within the next month or two. This just came out a few months ago. So people will see firsthand. But the Catholic Church has made progress. There are certain places now across Europe where the Catholic Church is reporting directly to the authorities. Mm-hmm. And Vatican is right behind them, trying to insist that they do this. Anybody who has sued the church is now at the point that they have to pay for
Mhm.
what they did to the victims. I saw that in the paper just a few weeks ago. So there are massive changes. So Watchtower's made many mistakes. So here we are talking about something like fooling us and lying to us about something dumb like this. But they've made dumb mistakes all along in the name of God. In the name of God. And that's why I worked my way into the child abuse, because if you lie over one thing, you're going to lie over something else if you think it's protecting you. And sorry to say, that involves too many religions.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Now I have been chatting with you on some other things that are ain't necessarily so.
True.
Yeah.
Let's
You
call
know,
it perspective.
I gotta say, I know you're a writer. You're a wonderful artist.
Thank
Before I even knew you, I saw some of your artwork and I said, "Oh my gosh, she sure got the talent." Don't
Thank
let it go to your head. You know, I know you got talent and you do wonderful work. And I can only wish that I had left the organization very soon after I got in it. You know, I used to play uh, the accordion. I gave that up. You know, I used to draw, and I was 13 when I became a witness. I used to design girls' clothes. I really could do all that. I
Wow.
didn't think that it was anything special, but I could do that. I gave up everything and become a witness. I look back at it. I got mad one day when one of the if he only knew, and he said something to me, and I was very irritated that day because I just discovered something else that the Watchtower fooled me on, and I got this phone call from this ex-witness, a very nice friend of both Joe and I when Joe was alive, and so he said something to me, and I don't know what it was because I just told him I was very, very annoyed. Well, I had just found out what I had really doing research, and I found out so much of Jehovah's Witnesses' ideas were taken from the Catholic Church,
Mhm.
and I couldn't hardly get over that. I said to myself, I went through to the frying pan from the fire.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
So now you have had some. You went early. Now I know a little bit about you because you told me years ago. I was really, really interested in when. Why was Nathan Knorr visiting your congregation?
Oh, his mother
And,
was his mother-in-law was in our congregation,
yeah.
and she lived across the street from me. So I knew his mother-in-law and her family. I was very close with that family. But I personally did meet Swingle. I thought I saw Franz. I
Oh,
have this
you were.
memory. I
He
have
came
this
to
memory.
California every year for
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah. I
He
know.
was,
I remember. You finally remember that the couple, the sister who studied with me, Etta Kruder, and you said you knew the Kruders,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
Reinhard Langtech was very good friends with
Oh,
the
knew him.
so
Absolutely.
yeah, so he would come and visit our congregation a lot.
You know,
You
he died just recently.
I'm not sure. Did he?
Yeah, I just found that out about 2 months ago.
Oh wow.
He was living in Washington State.
Yeah, he did. I visited him at his house. He went on a family vacation with us up to Victoria, British Columbia, accompanied my grandfather a couple months before my grandfather died. My grandfather was taking blood transfusions to take that trip with us, and so that he can extend his life. He had leukemia. But Reinhardt was a character. He was very simple.
Mm-hmm.
He told me
He
my
was very
mother.
important at headquarters for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote a lot of the Watchtower articles.
Yeah. What really impressed me was his. I told you this before. His ability to speak from the heart when he was on the platform. He gave a talk on love, and just the way he was like looking at certain people in the audience, I knew that there was a method to his madness. There was a point to that talk. And it was right after he had left quietly. So I think since he's passed away, bless him, it's probably safe to say now.
Yeah. Do you remember who he left Bethel with?
Dunlap.
Yes. And who else?
One other one.
Come on. You know that name.
I know.
XJW worshiped the ground he walked on. Raymond.
Oh, yes, of course. We did this before. Raymond Franz. Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah, he left with Raymond Franz.
Uh-huh.
I remember my mom telling me that Reinhardt and Cal Kruder used to get in heated arguments. I just wish I was old enough to be a fly on the wall and understand what was going on.
Yeah, in the Crisis of Conscience, a lot of things in there, unless you knew the background or the people, it was good, but you didn't appreciate it like those who knew him, like I did. I can tell really some very stories about some of these people. At that time, Ray Franz was over the writing department. He had a lot of clout. So he fell from way up high to way down.
That must have been so hard. I could tell I was a very sensitive child, and I guess I'm an empath, is what they say. I could feel that something hurtful happened to Reinhardt. I could just tell that there was a pain behind his eyes. I could see it. I could feel it. And things had to be a certain way. But I'll never forget when I went into his house, he had an average home, but he didn't have very much. But he only had a folding table, a chair, and a typewriter in his living room. And I guess I heard he was still writing for Watchtower, even though he walked away.
That's right.
And I think I heard that later in life he kind of faded. I mean, I could be wrong.
He faded. Absolutely. It worked. He was Washington State, and he had a job every day. He got on a bus. This is what I was told. And he got on a bus and he went to his job, came home in the evening, lived alone, and the rest of his life he lived like that. He had a good singing voice, I understood. And he had the book study at the house for quite a while before he completely left it.
Okay. Etta was a beautiful singer. So I could imagine that they sang all together. She was like, and my mother-in-law, beautiful voice. So in our hall, it was Etta and my mother-in-law, and they were just beautiful singers. You could tell they practiced.
It's just like the same experiences other people have in churches.
Yeah, right.
It's no different. Yeah. And anyway, get the good and the bad. Now, tell us about your current painting. Rosa.
She's behind me. I think right there.
Yeah,
there she is. Yeah, I brought her home. I got a call. She is. I got a call from the Art Association, or actually an email saying that there is a documentary that is coming out about the children of Guernica. And if you're not sure what the children of Guernica is during, what's the year? April 26th, 1937, they were bombed, the town of Guernica. So 4,000 children were displaced.
Where? Guernica where?
In Spain.
Okay.
Basque. So Picasso had done a famous painting called Guernica. It was black and white and shades of gray, and it was a huge mural on the wall. So this documentary is about his artwork, and so they curated other artists for work that would, I guess, speak, to displacement of children. But Picasso, when he was interviewed about the work, he was asked why he created it, a man said to him, "What made you paint it?" And it was a German officer, a Gestapo SS, who had visited Picasso's apartment. And the officer noticed a photograph, a small sketch of the massive mural, Guernica, and it depicts like the horrific aerial bombing of the Basque town by Germans and Italian forces during the Spanish Civil War. The officer, looking at the image of chaos and destruction, allegedly asked Picasso, "Did you do that?" And then referring to the piece of art. And Picasso replied, "No, you did," referring to the act of destruction.
Wow.
And that inspired his painting. And when I was painting Rosa, I felt the same way this past summer. And she captured the emotion that the producer of the documentary wanted for the film. And so I was honored to have her carry that message. And they thanked me. I got another email of congratulations that she was filmed in the Barbara Culture Arts Center, which is across the street from the Cheech. And the Cheech is a famous gallery. So we'll see what happens. They told me that it's going to be released in the spring, and they're going to be following one of the girls from that bombing and her life from when it happened and how she grew up. And I was looking at another photograph, and I understand why they chose my painting, because Rosa resembles one of the little girls in one of those pictures.
Oh.
And I didn't do that. It just happened to be that way. My Rosa, she has emotion in her face that you just, people tell me it's her eyes. And I had to stop. I had to stop painting when I was like, okay, I can't do it, and I can't paint her anymore. She's done, even though she looks like she's very sad in her eyes, like something horrific had happened.
She's very sad looking. You want to cry when you look at her,
Yeah. And I wanted that. I wanted people to realize, when they look at her, she's young and something horrible happened to her.
Right.
So, anyway, I was grateful. So we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, well, it's moving along. It's there. It's just not sitting in your library or your living room. It's moving along. Yeah. And you make effort. And that's what it takes. Make effort. Many of us have talents we don't even realize and that we do. I tell people all the time, I've always asked about this or that, because I was at Bethel. I'm supposed to know more than everybody else, but that's not necessarily true. I'm just human. I just know more people that, where they came from than many people do. But we can make, as I said, lemonade out of lemon. We each have a talent. It's there somewhere, and you go to find out. I tell people, if you really want to know people, good people, if you volunteer. That's what I say. Volunteer. There are so many places to volunteer, and you meet the nicest people.
Yeah.
I did that for a while, and I loved it. And actually, I volunteered at one particular place, and guess who I ended up meeting, who became a friend of mine? She's now deceased. She was killed in a car accident. She was the one who inherited Jack Daniels.
Oh, wow.
Well,
wow. You never know. Yeah.
I met her because I volunteered to be a guide for Jack Daniels. Jack Daniels organization and where they make the stuff is only 14 miles from my house. And I took a tour one day with some guests there, and they had the funniest person on the tour bus. And he had a real Southern accent and told us all sorts of jokes and everything. And I said, I could do that. This is when I was new out of the witnesses. And I said, I could do that. So I went to class. They had a class so I took the class. And each bus had a guide. And then they would take you through the mountains where they had a lot of liquor stored in thousands and billions of barrels. And so you have 200,000 people a year come to Jack Daniels for tours. So I had to go take a test before they would let me do it. And because, as I said, I had attended a class on how to be humorous. And so I woke up that morning, I had laryngitis. So so that's why I never made it to be a tour guide for a liquor company. So, you have to look at life with a sense of humor, otherwise you'll never make it through.
I can't express enough how great it is to volunteer for things. That's how I became good friends with the people in the Art Association, volunteering, doing birthday cards for foster children, just volunteering for the Health Foundation. I was involved in painting umbrellas for their tea they had, and that was fun. Paper mache. It was those Chinese umbrellas, and all of us artists painted several of them, and then they auctioned them off and made money. So, so they follow me and I follow them, and I have my process, on all my works or my book, what's going on. So they keep up with what I'm doing, and then they hit me up that we want Rosa,
See that?
So never know.
Yeah. Put your hands out, throw your bread upon the water, and it comes back. Yeah. And so I recommend something that really works well, and that is to volunteer to people who are ill and drive them to the doctor's office. Yeah. I didn't even think about that until I was told about that. And they make friends. The ex-witnesses, they make friends because they're needed. I think that's the greatest thing. We become witnesses because we're needy. We have a need for something. And it's different in different people why they convert. But here you are needed. You're useful to someone else who's going through a tragedy. Right. And I have known ex-witnesses that have done this, and we're so grateful that they did. Opened up their world to help others. Then they meet people in the medical association. The same way the senior citizens. You meet the nicest people if you're older and you go to the senior center. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we've all been through what the sadness and the circumstances when it couldn't have been great circumstances when we left the witnesses, generally speaking. Some are happy to leave, but if we have sadness because of that mistake we made, and some people don't feel it's a mistake. Some people feel that's the most wonderful thing they made. So I say, each your own. Do what you want, but don't destroy yourself over it. And you haven't. And Picasso sure didn't, did he?
Yeah. Can you imagine having the SS at your door? Like, why didn't you paint that?
Yeah, amazing. And so there are so many ways to look at things, and you can find a place for yourself. So, but there are perspectives, and there is such thing as scriptural wisdom. And I learned a lot about this, and I learned a lot about it from you.
We have,
and I appreciate it very, very much. because we have to learn how to view things differently. I was a witness for 42 years.
Mhm.
I could only look at one way, everything at one way.
Mhm.
And so we had a complex. All witnesses who are active have a them and us.
Yes, them versus us mentality.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with the words themselves. For example, for like a spiritual seeker, so to speak, hidden wisdom is actually about, from my perspective, from where I have read and looked into, hidden wisdom is about internal discovery in some circles. The goal is self-mastery, and the focus is
Oh,
on
you guide you master yourself instead of letting yourself master you. Is that
yeah, you're mastering yourself. It's self-mastery. So it's a focus on disciplined personal growth. And in some circles, they call it the great work. You're working on yourself. But in other, like in the Watchtower Society, they would call it what? Demons.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'd say, oh, I would have had a wonderful life, but I have demons in my life. But I wasn't talking about that. Maybe if I had a bad habit, I got to put aside that demon.
Right.
I like to eat and I'm getting fat. Or, that's what many people say. That's the demon in my life, right? So that's not literally.
Right. It's not literal. It's so people have a different perspective on the words themselves. So demon is often interpreted as a psychological projection, an unrelated internal drive, or a negative passion. So a ritual work of banishing or commanding these forces becomes an exercise of self-control, aimed at achieving conscious mastery over one's own subconscious self.
You mean that's what from time immemorial, the people, when they would say demons, they were using as an example of maybe a fault that they had, or a psychological issue that they had became like, but they really weren't talking about a religious occultic type thing.
Right. It's a vice. It's your vice, something that you have to work on yourself. So Carl Jung didn't view demons merely as external supernatural beings. Instead, he approached the concept primarily through psychological and archetypal lenses, interpreting them as powerful, anonymous forces originating from the unconscious cycle. So
it's from your own brain, your inner sanctum, psychic.
Your inner. So so in psychology, it's a completely different concept. You can look at it in another way. Was as the Bible was being written, you have a positive and a negative. So we call them demons. What are the demons? The demons are the things that you need to work on. It's your shadow work, so to speak. So in certain perspectives, that's how they view it. And in scripture,
different world view by different people. I mean, not everybody who says they believe in demons are talking about a invisible something or other that is mastering you.
Right.
But it's really within yourself to gain mastery over a fault or problem.
Let's say you have a bad habit. You drink too much, or you swear too much, or you have other vices that are being destructive to you or your family. Those are your demons. Those are things you need to work on. So in some in circles and that's how they view it. But pivoting to Watchtower, the language of all of this is lumped together linguistically. So they call everything demonization. So they immediately label it as the direct work of Satan and his demons. So they lump every structured practice, complex ceremony, psychological idea into a single negative threat orchestrated by fallen angels.
So some people have a tendency that when you're having a problem, you're a religion like Jehovah's Witnesses, you blame this literal force on what's happening, but yet in reality, that's always been around, that idea. But many people in the world over thousands of years, they weren't talking about a literal spirit force. That's what I found so interesting about all of this.
But if you think about it, is your spirit force. It's something.
Your spirit force.
Yeah,
it's a bad one.
Yeah. You could have outside influence, bad association or whatever, but it's actually you're doing it. You're doing the action. So it was just an interesting way of looking at it instead of lumping it. Anything that anybody else does that's not from the governing body is demonic. That's not the case. That's a little that's strategy. That's Watchtower's strategy of control, because it doesn't give anybody to look outside for any other truth other than what they give to you. So everything else is bad. It's just everything's bad. Everything's Satan. Everything is that. And so people rely on the governing body to tell them what to do. So people get scared when they're looking outside for anything else. I remember one of the men that lived at the home across the street. He was from Bethel, and he was suffering from schizophrenia, and he would stop taking his meds, and he was so traumatized that he really thought Armageddon was coming, like all the time. Like if it rained, Babylon the Great's falling. He would go knock on people's doors in the neighborhood. I really felt bad for him because they covered everything. He had no escape from anything. So it was all that an external force that was attacking him, and psychologically it caused him to be very ill.
So it's part of being very self-centered, isn't it? I see that if you're always thinking about yourself instead of broadening out and making a different life for yourself, it's easy to fall into this idea that the demons have got you, or it's a negative, always a negative. Mm-hmm. That's what many people have to deal with, because their children who could be very unhappy, not necessarily is their unhappiness coming from outside of themselves. It's coming from inside themselves, because they get psychological issues.
Yeah.
So they have to almost retrain their mind.
Exactly. And by taking nuanced terms and flattening them into like a simple, terrifying label of satanic spiritism, the Watchtower created a powerful spiritual guardrail that has a few dangerous results. And For example, enforcing exclusive loyalty.
Well, that's a number one, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this organization of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. So if you have an intellectual curiosity outside of the Watchtower, it's defined as active demon communication. It makes it impossible for a member to safely look elsewhere for truth. So this ensures total, unquestionable loyalty directed back at the governing body. And then the second thing that it happens is it fosters intolerance.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we train to not tolerate anything outside of what the governing body would tell us. So everything was demonized, and that can be, if you think about it being a theocracy, that's a very dangerous viewpoint. Is
Yeah, that's a good word. It's a dangerous viewpoint.
Right. So if a foundation of other spiritual paths is literally orchestrated by Satan, then tolerance and spiritual pluralism is impossible. There's no way for anybody to look into anything else that might feel right for their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very debilitating.
It's a complex.
Mm-hmm.
And the Watchtower simplifies. You know, if you're going through troubles, and remember, this was the way they dealt with it. They didn't permit us to go to
Therapist.
Yeah.
Or a psychiatrist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No medication for depression, antidepressant medication, and until it got to be so big. And I was at Bethel when they gave permission to finally allow people to go to and it was really basically because I was involved with all of that. And the ones who were abused as children, they needed help. They needed therapy and all that. They wouldn't allow it. And then it wasn't that the governing body decided because that's the right thing to do. It wasn't that. It was the pressure that forced them to do it. That was basically, and then they began to think it was, they were sympathetic, but some of them were never sympathetic to any of the witnesses that had psychological issues. And even if they weren't harmed in the organization, they became witnesses because of psychological issues. Yeah. So that we brought in, I know, we studied with an awful lot of people and brought them in. And I'd say when I look back, I'd say half of them were a little mental. They had issues, that's why they were listening. And we lived in South Florida. And South Florida in those years was a place that people were running to from up north. Yeah. And did we escape from a divorce, a case, or some awful thing, and they were disappearing in Florida. You could sleep out at night on the beach, for that matter. So this is we moved to West Palm. Let's see, we were married in '59, and in West Palm Beach, where my parents lived. And for years and years and years, we were going out in service. And I got to tell you, service was always extraordinary because you never knew who you met. And some of them were really weird. So, but they had issues. And the way that the witnesses looked at it, or some of the leaders who were coming across, and I know a few of them to this day, they're still alive. They're in their late 80s. And they had problems themselves. One of the key writers was absolutely insane. I know what I'm talking about. If I have to ever write anything about him, I can really write it.
Please do. Please write.
You don't want to hear those stories. He once threatened my life. He did. He threatened my life.
Yeah.
And it was
I know what you're talking about.
I was asking about.
Yeah.
Something was missing in the department, and I was asking because I had a feeling that he had this particular item before. It belonged to somebody else. He borrowed it from outside. It was very valuable, and he borrowed it for a presentation in a talk. And they never saw it again at Bethel. And I was asked when we were visiting California, and there was this man. He said, I lent my very special material to headquarters, and it's 5 years I've never signed it. He said, when you go back, would you inquire? So I inquired, and one day I had a phone call, and this man who was a senior writer, and he asked me, he was wonderful, and he asked me how I was, and I said, I'm fine, and everything. And then he asked me about this item. He said, you were asking about that in my department. And I said, yeah, this man asked me in California to look into where this was. And I said, that's all that was. It disappeared. And that's when his voice changed. And he said, really? Just let me tell you right now, you drop this or you'll hear from me, you will have a lot of trouble. And the way the voice was,
Yeah.
I thought it was a mafia.
I had my blood boiling.
We've all had the experiences.
Yeah.
So anyway, the organization give us a good conclusion about some of the very special things. And, we think, even if we're not witnesses and we're religious, we belong to a religion, we think that there are directions coming from up high, that we do something. But what sometimes people have expressions that they use that they make the right decision because of what's coming into their life from in the invisible realm or something like that. Give us some clues to that to help people to see how to look at this, because there are a lot of laws in natural laws.
Right.
Yes. And we don't make choices in those natural laws. Those same natural laws affect everybody unless you're insane and you don't know. But generally speaking, it affect everybody the same. But those are natural things in the universe. Our universe, the planets, they cycle, and we learn in school, or we should, about scientifically how things operate scientifically.
The scientific method.
I think it's interesting to develop it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, if in some thoughts, they call the universe the macrocosm, and we're the microcosm. So if you compare that to the Genesis account, the macrocosm made the microcosm in his image.
I never thought of that.
Yeah. So that's one way of looking at it. But then you have to look at the natural laws of the universe and how everything is, and how it works with one another. It has a cycle. We all have a cycle. We are born, we grow up, and we die. We can learn from nature that way. Nature has its cycle, even the planets, but everything is in order. It has its order. So to make an idea that goes against, or a dogma that goes against the natural law of the universe, you really have to think about it. You need to put your critical thinking skill, a little hat on, and think, well, could this particular body live forever? I don't know if that's good. I even as a child, I was like, I'm not sure about that.
God gives us everlasting life, that we should think about.
Yeah. So maybe this requires a little bit more deeper study to find out, maybe because the Watchtower Society takes everything so literal. Maybe it's a case for symbolism or an allegory that may mean something else. You know, even Jesus stated in the New Testament about the mysteries and what the deeper things of spirituality. So you know what you know, what were his thoughts on the natural laws of the universe? And if you dig into that, you know, I suggest people dig into that a little bit, do some reading, enjoy it. But go into whatever you're doing when you leave the organization and do it for yourself. What feels good for your heart? What feels right? And your path might be completely different than somebody else's path, but that's okay. We all could be sitting in a room and we all can have different thoughts. I challenge everybody to go and sit in a room with people and have discussions with people who think differently than you. Because we all learn from each other and we can get ideas or they can point us to something that we never thought about.
That's true.
Yeah. And
we you never know who you're sitting with. I mean, you could be on a train and you got a person sitting next to you and you never think about it. But if you got in a discussion with them, you might find that they are absolutely fabulously interesting. And you might be boring. And and you can expand your horizons. You expand your universe.
Right.
Even though the universe is not movable. I mean, it plays a part in certain movements. Let's put it that way. You know, I'm not going to talk on any of that, but you meet different people and then you understand where their perspective is coming from. And then if something comes up, you go, oh, I'm going to go ask so-and-so because I know that they read those books and I don't. I want to know what they think. Yeah.
Call them up and you have a great discussion.
Yeah. I sure learned a lot when I received so many of my books, because I did inherit from a ex-JW, and when he died, I inherited his whole library. There are books in there that are so fascinating.
Yes.
And I have learned, if it wasn't for all of these books, I would never know what I know about so much to do, even with the Pilgrims, the Puritans, how Russell's movement really was a rerun religion that comes from way back when. I looked into recently Enochianism, and I probably didn't even say it right, but I am fascinated by that and how it was a part of the 14th century and the beliefs that came out of it that affected Russell. All those years later. May I have your promise that one day we will talk about that, because that is something else.
Yeah, we'll have to compare notes, and it would be an interesting discussion.
Won't it ever?
In fact, and now that I know that you want to discuss something like that, I have a few people that I can ask who actually have a little bit more knowledge than I have on that particular subject. But I do know that Storrs wrote the book Watchtower.
Absolutely. He lived right down the block from Charles St. Russell in Brooklyn.
And he died in 1879.
When the Watchtower, that's when they were married in March. Mariah and Charles were married in March of 1879, and the first issue of the Watchtower was July.
Yeah,
and it became the word Watchtower. Why? George Storrs.
Yeah,
I learned wrongly at Bethel about George Storrs.
Okay,
and so the kind of interpretation I had that where his beliefs went, I thought it was good stuff, great interpretation that influenced, and the truth coming from the Puritans and all that. Most of that I learned it wasn't true. So his movements over the period of years and years, different movements. When I first discovered the whole thing on the Enochianism, I was fascinated about that. And of course, it was the Queen Wasn't it Elizabeth, and he was
Yeah,
a spawn for her?
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth. I read a book by Jason Louv on that, and I need to finish reading it before I can comment. The only thing that I can,
it was something else.
yeah. Now the
How
only
it
thing,
affected, you know,
the only thing that I can
100
say,
years later, Russell adopts some of the teachings from Enochianism.
yeah, the only thing is that the Enochian order, the order, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, they didn't come into existence until 1888, and they expanded because they had inner conflicts, and I think it was by the 20s. It was 20s. Don't quote me on it. It completely fizzled out. They had problems with Aleister Crowley, and there was a lot of problems. But then it's resurfaced again into Thelma and into Wicca. That's all I know on that. I think that those people I think he was interested in Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was
I'm interested in Enoch. I have the Book of Enoch, and I'm reading it. I want to learn more about that. It's fascinating what they were interested in.
History.
Yeah,
What we think is history today is not real history.
Yeah. The only thing that's not usually those societies believe in immortality of the soul, and they also believe in reincarnation, or they have a suggestion. So Russell and Storrs and Miller and those men that he
Henry
mentors, they were they didn't believe in those things. So that's the only thing but it doesn't mean that they didn't study it. So there was some influence, especially because it was so vogue to be involved. They didn't have the theater, they didn't have movie theaters. They went out and they did these things, and to belong to a whatever. And Russell, I think, would learn what he wanted to learn so that he could debate them, because he loved to debate people, and he wanted to convert them.
Yes, absolutely. I have looked at
that's my opinion.
For years and years and years. I have so much material on Russell, and what so many who are witnesses and ex-witnesses, they don't know a lot about him. They know what different people, like different people that crossed Russell's path, who the worship of angels, for instance, with the Enochians, and so where it all came from, and how it would 200, 300 years it would disappear, and then in the 19th century it was coming back again, the teachings. And here we are so far away from that, we don't even know that was primary teaching of the time that people lived in, and influenced them to the decisions they made. That's what's free. That's why I say the truth does not set you free, but the facts set you free.
The facts. Yeah, I mean, look at the Queen Elizabeth. She probably made a lot of diplomatic decisions over what she was being told. So made big decisions. I know we gotta be careful.
So if you want to smile and be happy, do some research.
Yeah. You always will learn something interesting. Yeah.
That's true. If you have I would say that if you really, really want to live a satisfied life, fill your life with what makes you the happiest. Well, some people fill their life with things that they think will make them happy, and in the long run, they are not happy. But then they have to look in maybe another direction. There's all sorts of things. Life is so interesting. The only bad part of life is what I wish that Jehovah's Witnesses had the truth on, is that we could live longer, so we could keep learning. But then on the other hand, there's somebody said that to me recently. How could, I think you maybe even said it today, how how could you live forever? I mean, how could it be possible to keep living and learning forever? You say the word forever, that's a long time. And so people then say, oh, God will make it possible. So you throw that off, and but you know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So we do know certain things that are about our world that are truths, are
Right.
facts.
Right.
Facts.
So back in the 16th century, 17th century, you got to remember that alchemy, magic, medicine, science, they were all lumped into one category.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, it was. So, you got to use the words a little loosely. They were all lumped together until it broke and, got a clear with the scientific method. When I think what I'm trying to say is like when you read things about those time periods, you gotta like remember that those things were all combined, lumped together, kind of like how Watchtower lumped in the demons.
Some of the things I've discovered because I ended up in the writing department. I ended up on the Proclaimer's book, and I learned a lot about different people. I learned a lot about the Russells, and that most people don't ever learn. And I found them fascinating. And so I did a lot of research over the years. And there are so many things about those people that are wrong, that are out there, but they're not true.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way life is. There's so many people, even their relatives don't really know the facts about them. But their own people. It's because we get so busy in our own life, we don't know about certain things. And so we keep repeating the same things we heard over and over again about somebody instead of check it out. And when I started checking out some of the stuff that I was getting in the writing department, I was amazed. So I determined that one of these days I'm going to put all that together, and I have been working on it, and it is fascinating, completely different than you would really think. There are certain things that came out of their divorce that is common knowledge, but there is so much that shows that they don't think like us and we don't think like them. We're a different world. Even their divorce. People say, well, the Watchtower said they never were divorced. And they have a reason for saying that. But that's a whole nother discussion. Mm-hmm. There's a whole other one. The divorce laws, you have to go into that. You have to go into this. And then all of a sudden you begin to realize what was going on there. They were real people just like you and I. And they had issues, less like everybody has. And over the years, the truth or the tales were either magnified or reduced, just like somebody's going to do for my life and your life in the next century, if they mention us at all, which they won't. So, okay, Rick, we gabbed.
We've been chatting.
I was thinking we got a lot of people, they're pent up. They want to say hello to you. We got a lot of people listening in on our radio network. And yeah, go ahead. You're first. Yeah, go ahead. You're on first. Go ahead.
I just want to say I'm a long-time listener now. It was great meeting you guys out at the convention. And
who are you? I didn't hear who you were. Did I meet you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just want to say tonight's show has been phenomenal.
Oh,
it's just been incredible.
Thank you.
And Donald, for your knowledge and what you've just gone through, I would have thought you're like Anne Marie and I, and you go way back to growing up in this cult during the 70s. Your knowledge base is just phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about me. Yes. I grew up in the 70s and 80s.
You did?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, the gentleman that was talking after Anne Marie's phone cut out.
Oh.
Was his name Donald?
Oh, it was the other show.
Yeah, his
Oh.
name was Donald. Yeah, are you on there, Donald? Say hello to Dean, our good friend Dean. All right.
Hey, Donald.
I think he's still
Hang
on.
up?
No, he's still listening in, but I don't know why he can't unmute himself. But
Maybe he walked away, but just phenomenal. So everything happens for a reason, but I just want to go over this because this touched me from what I've been thinking recently as well. You know, just growing up in the Jehovah's Witness cult, it made me become very astute to corporatism and, you know, narcissistic type leadership environments. And that's why I became successful in my military career and my corporate career. Because once you see the basic games of the corporate and narcissistic leadership bullcrap, you wake up very quickly because, you know, falsehood's going to expose itself easily. You just got to be sensitive enough to look at the signals and the signs and be able to read and analyze it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. That's what many of Jehovah's Witnesses are doing, and that's why they're leaving. They're analyzing it all and leaving.
But then again, he hit the nail on the head, which I think I mentioned before when I was out at the convention, is there's a lot of Koreans in Hawaii. Hawaii is a fortress of JW recidivism. So, you know, they're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and no one's really paying attention to them. But yeah, the North Koreans seem to, I guess, go to the Jehovah's Witness for some reason. I guess they like that regimented type. They need a dictator or a organization to tell them what to do every minute.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks, right?
But hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. Tonight's show was my Christmas present.
Well, nice to have you. I'm sure everybody this evening appreciated you coming on.
thank you, Dean. We're gonna go to 571, I should say. 571, you're on with us.
I just wanted to say it was a great show, and I want to thank Kerry for that George Storrs note about him writing a book called The Watchtower. I've looked for that for many years.
Yeah.
I know Jason Louv personally, and that John Dee book is wonderful.
Yeah.
He notes how the Tetragrammaton is on the floor of the ancient Parliament building in London and more. And also, when Russell talked about how before World War I, the ministers gave each other gifts, that is in a Golden Dawn reprint that I had. So you've helped to connect Golden Dawn to the Russellites yet again. And there's little proofs here and there with the angel stuff.
Yeah. Well, why were they called Dawnites? The Bible students, you know, they never gave up. The early organization had certain names for it, and they never gave them up, even though it was under a new regime, like the Russell one, but they still had the Dawn closely attached to that movement. Yeah. Fascinating that you're so interested in this. And
I spent years in comparative religion. After leaving, I ended up at a university that had the largest comparative religion library on the East Coast, and it was not Yale, and it surprised me.
Wow.
So, anyway, great interview, and wishing you all kinds of wonderful angelic energy this week. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You too.
Well, if anyone wants to say hello to Kerry and Barbara,
You
all
got
you
three,
have to,
3 minutes.
go ahead, Barbara.
I
Yeah.
said you got 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
All right. If someone wants to say hello, hit *6 on your telephone pad. But I wanted to say, I really enjoyed the part about the newspaper. That is unbelievable. The tricks that the copper world, as Dean was just saying, as well as, as,
Yeah.
as, as hold on, we gotta. All right. Well, let's bring on. We got. You gotta shut your YouTube off though. 865. Is that you? Shut your YouTube off and come on. Say hello to Barbara and Kerry. You gotta shut your YouTube off. It's echoing. You gotta shut the TV off. Or turn it down. Do something with it. Okay.
Someone in the background. Hello, shut the YouTube off. Shut the TV off. I'll turn it down. Do something.
Okay. Let's do that. I gotta mute. Go ahead, Junction Guy. You're on. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say hello to both Barbara and Kerry and you. I talked to Barbara years ago. I haven't talked to her since, but I just wanted to say hello. And I've been watching the program tonight, and I watch this program every Saturday if I'm home or if I'm on vacation. Sometimes I don't watch it, but anyway, I've enjoyed the show tonight.
Well, good. We enjoyed doing it. You know, it's our favorite subject, isn't it, Kerry?
Yeah. We've had hours of conversations on it.
Yeah. We never get bored. We got hundreds of years to discuss. Right, Rick?
Well, I have to say this now. What I look at here at the 6 screens control panel, I have a number of computers going, and of course they monitor Facebook, YouTube, radio, telephone network. And what I always speak of here, what I look for is retention rate, and the retention rate on this program was extremely high. Now, what I mean by that is, if you can capture people's interest in the very beginning, what you did with the newspaper, that was good. We could put that newspaper out there, people could see it. People were fascinated by that, and that's when I can see the numbers really ticking up here during that time, and that brought an audience in. Now, by a retention rate, they stayed with you, and then they actually increased as you went along. So that's a sign of a very good. That's a sign of a good program. So thank you guys for coming on, and you both made it very clear that the Watchtower can really mess people up. There's no question about it, you know.
But some people love it. You know, to this day they're going to die in it. They love it. So to each its own.
Yeah.
I think we have a pasta babe. Is that a pasta babe? You want to say something?
Yes, please. Thank you. Hi, Barbara.
Hey there.
This is a pasta babe, Linda James. And because you were talking about Russell and how things were at the time that they were alive, I have this mystery that I can't solve. And the mystery is, why did he and his wife choose to be celibate?
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that. I know why they chose to be celibate. And I'm not speaking about it tonight.
Cliffhanger.
We don't have to then. Thank you. I
Hey,
appreciate you.
Wait for the book. Wait for the book. I'm writing it. In about 10 years, I'll be done.
Well, Barbara, when are you going to?
I gotta wait.
When are you going to tell the people?
Jellyfishing all over the place. I just can't figure out why they were celebrating.
Oh, it was easy to understand once you knew the facts. There were facts that, people didn't much talk about their private affairs, but he didn't talk about his private affairs that he had with the Rose Bowl, but, they didn't talk enough about it. But it happened.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you. It's an adventure. We who, like yourself, looking into all of this, instead of looking into it with hatred, at it as a world that's past and it's over. And we have the historical information on it if we want it. And some people don't care if they're celibate. I care because I have a book that I'm writing on it. So I care. And you never know. I might be out next year, might be 2 years. You never know. It depends upon a lot of different things. But we do have reasons. So I don't mean to make light of what you're asking.
Okay.
There is a reason.
Well, okay. The mystery remains, and sometimes it's just supposed to. I understand.
Yeah. But it's fun to think that you got the answer, that there is an answer. It's just the people haven't really looked at the whole picture. And it's huge, a huge picture of two people and all the lives that they touched while they were alive, not as those like us who inherited the religion. So, if you'll just wait 1 minute, I want to show you something. It's right here in my desk. I just want you to see this. I think you'll.
I'm on the phone. Maybe you can describe it to me. I'm not on YouTube, so.
Look at this. See this, Rick?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, this is Mrs. Russell's. It is hers. She wrote every word. This is not a copy of anything. This is her private manuscript, almost 400 pages, that was given to me. And it is a extraordinary, this is her book, This Good News of the Kingdom. This is after the divorce, after the marriage. This is called The Eternal Purpose. And this is one of the chapters. And I'll show you her handwriting. And she beautiful Spencerian writing.
Oh,
Well, Barbara, I'll tell you, that's amazing to get that stuff. And like I talked a couple of weeks ago, I have a really good, talented artist that works here at the Six Screens, and she's doing some fantastic work. And I just want to, while you talk about Russell tonight, I'm just going to play this little film. It's just only like a minute long.
Oh, is that the one I saw?
Yeah, I'm going to play it right now. Okay.
It's fascinating.
Let me share it. Now, we're trying to get everything ready. I know the other one that really has a lot of facts on Russell. And so I'm going to play it right now. I'll share it right now so people can see it. So let's bring this up. We'll play it.
Jellyfish. I float around here and there.
Much controversy surrounded the marriage of Maria Ackley and Charles Taze Russell. 1 year after The Watchtower was first published, Russell married Maria in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Maria took interest in Russell through his teachings, assisting him in theocratic activities. As the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society progressed, contention was brewing under the surface. In 1903, Maria filed for divorce and legal separation on the grounds of mental cruelty, cold indifference, and infidelity. During the trial, allegations were made of improper intimacy between Charles and Rose Ball, a 25-year-old whom the Russells had cared for their foster daughter. According to the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, which published an article of the legal details, Maria had stated that one night, she found Charles in his nightrobe sitting on Rose's bed. On other occasions, Maria found Charles with his arms around her, kissing her. Maria alleged that Rose told her that Charles referred to himself as a jellyfish.
I float around here and there. I touch this one and that one. And if she responds, I take her to me. And if not, I float on to others.
The divorce was 06. It wasn't 03, I think he said.
Yeah, I know. I wanted you to see that. So it was 06.
04 is when she filed for divorce.
Yeah.
And she filed in the name of her sister, I believe, because he had painted her as insane. And so in a divorce back in those days, you had to have another person represent you. As far as the floating around like a jellyfish, I know the answer why he said that. Hey, telling you now.
All right. Well, one of these days you are. But, I'll tell you what, Barbara. In fact, when we did one on Grieber, I'm going to show it on JW World News coming next on the next program on Johannes Grieber. And what we're doing is really
interesting.
Yeah, we're getting in. And you want to see the Grieber one?
Yeah, why not?
It's just a minute long. So let me play it for you right now. You might
I
like
love those. I love those short ones, right?
Yeah, I make them nice and short. Let's play the Grieber. I'll play it again tonight. But hold on 1 second while I can get in there and see how we can do this.
Hey, Kerry, this is fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, this is all AI. This is all created. It takes work to do it. We're working on Russell right now and his death in Pampa, Texas.
Like I tell you, be careful, because half the stuff is not correct, and I know what
we're trying to make it as factual as we can. I know some stuff. Yep.
AI provides what's on the net, and in many cases, because I'm having the same experience, I have the facts, and then you go to the AI, and it provides what's on the internet already. And then you have to start dismissing it. So a lot of the things are true, but they are very average. But the odd stuff is what people have done, talked about for years. So that's what AI is about. But I have the proof. That's why I haven't published anything, because I wanted the proof.
Well, here's the one on Grieber.
Okay, that's interesting, I'm sure.
Despite their claims of being God's chosen organization, Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs are rooted in a dark history of occult practices and spiritism. Johannes Grieber, a German priest and spiritist, claimed spirits showed him what words to use in his Bible translation, entitled the New Testament, published in 1937. Although Grieber used the occult practice of necromancy, the Watchtower Society had numerously referenced Grieber's translation in the efforts to support their erroneous translation of John 1:1. In an article from the February 15, 1956 Watchtower magazine, the Society recognized that Grieber was a spiritist. They continued to reference Grieber through the years to support their own doctrines. After much public knowledge that Grieber was a spiritist, the Watchtower fabricated this article from questions from readers to rid themselves of any connections with Grieber's translation. They admit they recognized Grieber as a spiritist and deemed it improper to make use of a translation that has such a close rapport with spiritism. Although the Society stated that they were unaware Grieber was a spiritist until the 1980 edition of the New Testament, 1956 Watchtower magazine proves the Society has always been aware of the fact that Grieber was a spiritist. In a letter obtained by former member of the Watchtower Society Bill Setner, the Society writes to the Johannes Grieber Memorial Foundation, thanking them for the copies of Grieber's works, additionally asking them to send more copies. The letter is dated December 20, 1980, 24 years after the Society recognized Grieber to be a spiritist.
Well, that's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I
knew Bill Setner.
It was his wife, if I may interject here. His wife was the one who was the spiritist, and he relied a lot on her for that translation.
Mm-hmm.
And today, even still, their Bible, John 1:1, still references. I mean, it doesn't say Grieber, but it still they still use Grieber in their current Bible. It's still his stuff's still in there.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do on 6 screens is, we're gonna bring these all together. We'll refine it, a few things. You can't get everything perfect, but we're looking to make 6 screens an AI, artificially intelligent website where you can, because I believe people think in pictures, they reason in pictures, and they move to action by pictures and images. And, short little videos can see, you have to get the witnesses to see a little flaw. And when you see one little flaw, then it can lead to another. So it's been going really good. It's been going really good. And there's so many subjects that you could really bring up on it. But as Barbara said, there's so much out there. It's very, very hard to really decipher what's exact and what's not. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Yes. And to bring it together, it brings together the false ones too. So if there's more on a falsity, then the AI will bring it out as like the majority opinion. And so this is we all know that AI is going to cause a lot of problems in our world in the future. And they're seeing it already in college and jobs and so forth. I'm not condemning it, but you have to continue on your search before you accept it, because it's taking it as a fact. Because, I mean, so many people have put one idea about Russell for years on the program, first the radio, then the TV, and now on AI on the internet. The majority wins with AI information. And that's why you got to be very careful. There were two things in the short Russell one I knew right away was not a fact. I hired a historian. People don't have the vaguest idea, and why would they, that someone like me would hire a historian, but I did. And in 2000, I started to pay a historian out of Pennsylvania. And the Pennsylvania archives on the history of Pennsylvania is underground. It is not for people just to wander in like a library. And that man worked for me for years. I took a part-time work. Besides, I went to college part-time. And I spent $11,000, my own money. Joe said, whatever you want to do with this, it's your, you want this, you do this. So I did. And so much of the stuff that's been out there for years, and it kind of wins as far as a vote of confidence, because there's so much of it out there, and it's not true. So, but there is plenty of truth. I don't want to tell you that there isn't. I want to be open about this. The person that's helping me, who's a scholar now on the Russells, we have the best conversations because it's just such a fascinating subject. So, like I said, when he was saying, you know, I'm like a jellyfish, the core of the whole idea is missed. You have to just think a little bit. But I know the information I have is factual, what he was talking about, not necessarily what others think he was talking about.
Can you tell the audience what? Well, of course, some people call her Mariah, others say Maria, but it didn't go either way. But what I was saying here, Barbara, is you mentioned to me what Maria was buried in. Do you want to share that, or you want to save that for another time?
You mean the clothes she was buried in?
Yes.
Yeah. Years and years ago, I called. I looked to see. I knew where she was, the funeral home, and so I looked to see if it was still in existence, and it was in Tampa, I believe it was, St. Petersburg, and so I called them. She died at 38, I think, 37, 38, because I'm, you know, after a few months, I can't remember like that little date, and then I go back and look, because I'm an old lady, so I have a short term on many of the things. So anyway, back then though, I called, and you know what? Not only were in their business, they had all the records from the year from the get-go, and they had Mrs. Russell's records, and this was like 2006 or something like that I called there. They had her records, and they had what she was buried in, the clothes she was buried in. They had the amount of money it cost them. So the hosiery she had on, they had the amount of money it cost them. They put her all in fresh new clothes, one outfit. But every single, even her underwear was all new. And I had the cost of the whole thing. I think everything she had on was like $2 or $3. That's a lot of money in 1937 or 38. Like I say, I can't remember that one or date or the other date. It's one or the other. And so I got a kick out of that one, to think that was all those years they had a record of. And how many people showed up to her funeral. In my writing, I mentioned the fact that his funeral, I did a whole chapter on his funeral. It was huge. There were 2 funerals for him, and thousands. They couldn't even get him into the one place. And the flowers were everywhere. And it was like a king died. And she had about 4 people at her funeral. And so I closed out that chapter with some sad remarks, that what she got in the end and what he got. Adoration, and she was totally forgotten. And actually, she spoke the truth, and he did not. He was a born liar, and I don't say that loosely. He was a born liar. He talks about it at a convention to not followers. He talked at a businessman's convention, and he talked about his mother, who knew that he was a liar from infancy, but she put up with it and put up with it. And then when he was like 5 years old, he lied so badly that the first time in her days with this child, she whipped him. And so he's got this in his own writing and the book, you can get it anywhere, that record of his talk to this group. And when I read that, it actually backed up what I had found from years and years of research, that he was literally, like many parents talk about their kids. They say, I don't know about this kid. He's a born liar. Well, Russell was a born liar. And
I love to hear you talk like that, Barbara. See, that makes...
Yeah, well, I'm at the age where I have a lot of fun with all of this, and I love this stuff. I love looking at it and thinking about it. Right, Kerry, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's fascinating. So you can be an ex-witness and be happy. You don't have to be unhappy.
Who wants to ask a question? Go ahead. You're on with us. Who's this?
Hi, this is Stephen. I just had a quick question. I'm enjoying the program. I just wondered, did the Russell family line die out? Did they have children, or are there still any Russells around at all?
Mrs. Russell had children. I actually received, I'll show you in a second here. Yes. Okay. You see these? Okay. I received the 7 volumes, and this is Rutherford put it out in 1919 as a kind of a thing for Russell, for Russell's past. These are the original Watchtowers. Now, I have all of this, everything in 7 volumes. This is years and years of research and papers in there, plus in the internet. And these are all kinds of things that are amazing stuff that he wrote. Mrs. Russell wrote over 80 articles. But of course, she exited this before. Well, she lived a long time, but she was out of it earlier than him, and way earlier than him. And so this kind of stuff, you find clues everywhere in all of this. So there's so much stuff that I have on the Ruffers. Russell. It is, until you see it all, you'll be shocked. Say what?
Yeah, I was asking if Charles Taz Russell had children. Is the Russell line still alive?
That's what I'm going to get to. So this was all given to me by Mrs. Russell's great nephew, and Russell himself. He had a sister and a brother that died, and I know when they died. The sister died, and so there was a kid a kid, but Mrs. Russell's, you know what you don't understand is the relationships between the families. They're very closely related. So Ackley's and in time they were not originally. Ackley is her side of the family, and Russell is his side. But later on, some of the ones married each other. And I met one of the Mrs. Russell's nephew. He was in his 40s, and he helped me an awful lot to see a lot of stuff because it came from, because Russell's side died out, and but Mrs. Russell's side kept the material, and so I received an awful lot of historical material from that side. But Russell's family side, no, they didn't. I have so much on Mrs. Russell's, her sisters and brother, nephew, whatever. And they talk about the other side at times. It's just sorting all of that now. It is such a huge story. I was talking with an associate of mine today that is working with me to put together some things that are very, very intricate. And so we compare these notes. We compare all this on the families that were left. I actually had 2 very close interviews with almost immediate family members of Mrs. Russell. And they weren't partial. They were very, very open people. And later on in their lives, they were Baptists. They weren't Bible students. They were Baptists, some of them. You know, they went their own way. It's a very in-depth discussion, all of any of these questions, because it ain't simple to just come up and answer. You're talking about way, 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 way long ago. And some places didn't have stuff. They didn't save stuff. I mean, I'll tell you what, Mrs. Russell's story, I'm writing Mrs. Russell's story. Plenty of his stuff is in there. Don't ever think it isn't. I got oodles. And I'm trying to be accurate. I'm trying not to take sides, show any favoritism. It's an extraordinary story, I can tell you that. It's got murder. It has crime, other crimes, lying, sex, and no sex. That is the best rundown I can tell you that this book is going to have. Okay. And there is a lot of interest in it, not for a book, but for something much more in-depth than a book. Because it is a story that you all will, I think everybody who's going to watch it, get that? Watch it, is going to be very surprised.
Do you feel that Watchtower would be opposed to the things that you're going to present? Are you getting any flack from Watchtower that they don't want this stuff to come out?
You know, the honest truth of the matter is Watchtower has never given me flack. Nada. Not over anything since I've left the organization. I had a good relationship with all of them, and most of those men were decent people. They were just in love with something I wasn't in love with anymore. You know, they had their whole lives were tied up with the heirs of the original Watchtower people. So, but after I left, no, I've never had any flack. I don't think they will have any flack. Remember, I have put out stuff on Russell in the past. I've also, when I was at headquarters, the interesting thing about the history of the divorce, for instance, Carl Adams, many of you will know that name. He was the supervisor of the Proclaimer's book, and I worked for him. And So he gave me the divorce. Now, when I had the divorce in my hand, it was 400 pages. It's not that it was 400 days. It was 400 pages because it was double spaced in a transcript, a court transcript. I also have the small book, which has the entire divorce, including something I don't know who could possibly have it. It was a gift to me from a Bible student, a head of a Bible student many years ago. It's got the entire divorce, including the judge's entire remarks to the jury. Nobody has that. Watchtower probably has it in their archives. It is as precious as could be because he says things in there to the jury that clears up a lot of problems. And I can't say that anybody's going to say to me that this is problematic of my putting the story together, because of those men today, most of the ones that I dealt with then are all deceased. So why should they have, not around to be problems? Also, I can prove everything I say. They don't take me on because they know that I can prove what I say. I've been doing it over years. I'm not going to say nada about any of them unless I can prove it, because to me, that's the name of the game. I don't want to perpetuate lies. They had their good qualities. Now, Russell I would tell you this, honest. I've got like 2 pages from a Bible student that wrote, and it's in here, the original Watchtower. And that man is critical. And plus, it was put in another kind of book. And that man says that it says 1909. And he says to Russell, what's the matter with you? Everything you used to believe in about your actions and how you dress and how we should be humble and everything. He said, you aren't that way anymore. He said, I don't understand it. 40,000 people left the organization in 2009. And that was when the mediatorship, when he just adopted the mediatorship. All the 144,000 were the mediators, not just Jesus. It's 144 and 1,000, okay? And so, and what it was is Russell was getting sicker and sicker. I think Russell, now, I got to tell you, I think he had a disease, and he was really mentally ill. I know the disease he was suffering from as a young man. He talks about it. I have the grave certificate. Nobody's got the grave certificate. The certificate for the death certificate, it doesn't exist. And if Watchtower has it, I doubt it. And I have reasons to doubt it because nobody cared at one point about Russell. And so they didn't save anything. They had nothing in the archives until they decided to do the history, which eventually was the Proclaimer's book. Anyway, by the time 1909 came on, this man was mentally ill. And he was wearing during the daytime, he would be in the best of everything, in the best car when the cars were brand new, the new inventions and things like that. He wore the hat, the high hat, the tuxedo during the day. And that's what he was being criticized for. And then, of course, adopting the mediatorship, his organization was just about ready to hit the ground. There was only a few thousand in 1918. I have it pasted on my wall here, right out of the Watchtower. There was a 2,000 something. I could get up and get the figure, but it's going to be in the book. In 1918, 3 years after he died. He died in 16, 2 years after he died. 3. Anyway, whatever. There was only a few thousand kingdom proclaimers in the whole world. That's how, when Rutherford took over, there was not very many people who followed Russell. And he was a very sick man when he died. He suffered a disease. He named the disease over and over again. I looked up that disease. I bought books on those years and that disease. And you'll all be shocked what I think. Russell, when he was 16, he was raised a Presbyterian, and 11 years old, he was assistant to his father in the grocery store business. Also, he was in the clothes business, men's clothes, haberdasher. So he was he converted on his own to Congregationalist, and then for the year of when he was 16, he had no religion, and then by the time he was 17, and then he started to get back in. Remember, he was writing about reading hellfire stuff on the sidewalk, and then he heard a lecturer speak, and he went in and he started getting interested in the Bible. He hated the teaching of hellfire, and that's why he claimed he left it. But there is also another reason that I suspect, and it was at the age of 16 what he got into, because the disease he had, very, very rare for women to have. Men to have. Women had that disease, not many men. And so that's where research comes in. The more research you do, it clears up this and it clears up that. But I want you to wait for the book. And if I don't survive to do the book, I've got someone else who's going to do it. Finish it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to wait for the book. Can I just ask a quick question? And if there's no time, Rick, just let me know. Barb, what is your feeling about the outcome of this organization? Do you feel it's just going to keep going as it is? Do you feel it's just going to slowly, dwindle away? Do you feel it's going to be a catastrophic, end to it? What is your take on how Watchtower is going to end, or is it going to end?
Like most of these religions, they disappear. At time, they just disappear. They don't have the followers. It's a different culture. There's so much different in our world than Jehovah's Witnesses' world. The 80s was a phenomenal time. That was when they had the biggest growth, the 80s and the early 90s. And from then on, it's been going down, 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 down. But that's because of more and more investigation into the Watchtower. And when I was in the writing department, we were encountering that constantly. And that's what's been going on since then. I have I have my friends over the years who let me know how bad the Watchtower is doing. Very, very bad. This whole money thing in Ireland and all of that, that isn't what you see is not what you really should believe, because they're not.
Do you think that the $100 million lawsuit against them is going to hurt them pretty bad?
Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of information on that. I wrote to one of the women this past week who's putting a lot of that information on the internet or my cell phone on stuff as it's coming out. And so I inquired about this, and I'm at the point that I can't really tell you an answer. It's so long. I was on the phone for hours when I was listening to about this. This comes out of Brazil. It's filed in New York. There's a lot of things that don't make sense in there. Plus, on the net, there is a man, and he is giving a talk, and he's the world's expert on all of this stuff, except for the fact that he isn't talking about the same case. He's talking about an altogether different case. And there's also a third case that gets mixed up in this. It's people who are picking up information, don't understand the whole case. You know, there was what you guys don't know. There was a case settled just a few weeks ago, and that was a big case, but nobody knows. I know because of circumstance. I dealt with that child, that person who was abused by her grandfather in 2003 or 4, right in there. And so they got that case mixed up, and it was just finished. And she took a settlement. What Watchtower wants to do is they hate this, but they're trying to settle so they can take the news off of them. And so this case is coming out of, as I said, Brazil. Then there's another case that was just settled in Australia. That's the one where the girl has sued her father. She, believe it or not, she is, I wish I could think of her initials. If you watch the Royal Commission, she read her experience. You never saw her. There were two women, young women that read their experiences towards the end of the Royal Commission before Jackson got on. And she read about what her father did to her. And that case was just won $150,000 or no, $1,500,000. Oh, but yeah, I looked into that one with people involved in Australia. It is not what we think it is. It just isn't. And I can't go into that right now. And actually, it's that woman who won that money off of her father. She's here in the United States. And you might have heard her name, but she's not using information that I just can't go into it, because this is all going to hit the fan, and if the fat's going to hit the fan on those two big cases. They're separate cases. I've got one guy who's excellent, and he is the best, and out of New York. And of course, Dawkins is involved in some of these things. And I have a lot of association over the years with his cases. And so, but I got to tell you, the last 3 cases that we have heard about, one is settled 2 weeks ago, and the Brazilian one and the one of Australia of the $1.5 million. I could say plenty about the $1.5 million. I won't touch it with a 10-foot pole on television. I just wouldn't. It's bad news. It's very, very bad. Big news. The cheating and the kind of things that have been going on behind the scenes is remarkable to, I've been involved in these cases behind the scene for over 20 years. You just don't know. I put a lot of stuff on my website on the original cases, but I put a lot on 2008, and the cases came from 2001 and 2. See, so it's all this stuff is going to hit the fat's going to hit the fan in the next few years. I hope.
Well, Barbara,
Barbara, do you have any?
What do you think the outcome?
Barbara, do you have any information? Do you have any information on the young lady that was molested right at Bethel by her stepfather? He was some sort of videographer.
Absolutely. I was with her. I recommended her to the lawyers. She contacted me. I've known her for years. I still know her. And at Bethel, I know all the circumstances. The man, her stepfather, and at nighttime, when the mother was an alcoholic, and when she would go to bed, they lived right there on Orange Street. That the streets right there by 20 right there where the home the original Beecher's home, and then this way where the offices were. Anyway, they had an apartment on there's 3-story apartment, and they had a nice apartment. Anyway, when I talked to that gal long before she ever went to court, and so she's a little girl. I have a picture of her, and she's standing with Freddie Franz. She knew them all. I wonder why I never saw her at Bethel, but they didn't live in Bethel. They lived in this apartment. But she was working in the laundry. She's a little girl working in the laundry. Anyway, her mother was an alcoholic. And so her mother would go to bed in the night and she was drunk. And her bed was in the hall because these are only one bedroom home apartments. So that's when all the molestation, when the mother was drunk. And
well,
so,
Barbara, you had her. You had, excuse me, Stefan. But Barbara, you had her on a program here in the sixth grade.
I did.
What was her last name? Debbie something.
Hines.
Debbie Hines, right? She was on here. In fact, she got so many views. Remember the night she came on a few years ago? You had
she
her
wanted
come
to
on.
come back. Yeah, she wanted to come back.
Yeah, we're gonna. The case was settled. Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, the case was. Well, Barbara, we got you on here for a long time. I know that you spent some time here with us, and of course, Kerry as well. We want to let you know we really appreciate you coming on, and we're gonna get you guys back. We'll give you a little rest, but boy, oh boy, you guys could go all night. You could, Barbara. Oh, boy.
Oh, I could. But, you know what I call myself? I call myself an information passer alonger.
Well, there you go. We'll go with that title.
That's all I am, really.
That's a darn good title for you. But no, we'll thank you. We'll give you a little rest here now. But thank you, Barbara, for wanting to come on.
And Kerry was such a big help to me to help me understand some of the psychological stuff. You know, she is our expert. So if you guys ever have questions on the psychological stuff on the part of any witness, ask Kerry. She'll explain it to you.
Well, Kerry's a very talented woman.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's got the paintings in the background. I'm in like a graphic business myself, but Kerry's very, very talented. She's a very poised woman, and she does a good job with her post on Facebook. And we're so glad that she could come on here with you tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really mean that, Kerry. Thank you for coming on being with Barbara tonight.
Thank you, Kerry.
Thank you all. Appreciate
We'll
it.
do it again, and we'll pick another subject that they can accuse us of not telling the truth because it'll be so sensational.
Well, we got you. What I liked you tonight, Barbara, in the beginning and the end, because I don't have a soft spot from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet for the Jehovah's Witness organization. Not the Jehovah's Witnesses. Some of them, most of them are nice people. But the organization, I have to tell you, I have no feeling for. And I'm glad I'm glad you called Russell a liar tonight. That made me happy because he was. He was a con man,
Oh, sure.
But thank you.
You compare him, the pages and pages I have of what he did, what a liar, and how he treated her. The worst divorce case, he didn't beat her. He didn't beat her psychologically. He was going to put her in an insane asylum when she left.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night.
Well, we're looking forward to you telling the whole story. Yeah. And maybe you can do it here on the 6 screens. Yeah. Maybe you could do it here and let your story out because you have a lot of information that people would really love to know, Barbara. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to cut you loose. Kerry wants to get to supper. I think you live in California, Kerry, do you?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Yeah. So she's 3 hours behind. Mm-hmm. So she wants to probably get something to eat. You too, Barbara. I'll tell you what. You're like the
already ate. I already ate, so I can stay for another 10 hours.
We wind you up. We can't. I don't know where you get your energy, but okay, Barbara. You guys just keep cranking away with it. And when you're ready, we'll come back on again with one of your programs, Barbara. Whenever you're ready, let me
Hey, I
know.
got another one, a really good one. And so make an appointment for me and I'll tell you all about the Atlantic.
All right, I'll give you.
Atlantic magazine. When you hear about the Atlantic magazine, you're going to be shocked.
Well, I'll give you a call next week or so and get you on. Thank you. Keep the wheels moving. Keep the wheels moving. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you. Well, there you have it. My goodness. Well, that's Barbara Anderson, Kerry Kaye. We're glad you could come on tonight. So, friends, thank you for coming into this program. We're always glad to have Barbara come on. Everyone knows her. She's done a lot of research on the Watchtower, and we learn a lot from Barbara. So we appreciate that. We appreciate Kerry coming on with her. So stay with us. We're going to JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about, but we're going to talk about it tonight right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. So let's end this right here, right now. And for those that called into the program, thank you. We really appreciate that. That means an awful lot. All right. Stay with us. Stay on this channel.